Greetings everyone. Welcome to UEC News. Today we had Ambarish sir with us who has scored a job in TCS. So congratulations sir for that. And now sir, please do give us a brief introduction about yourself.
So hello everybody, I'm Ambarish Dashora. I'm working as a systems engineer at TCS Pune and I'm from Ujjain. Completed my graduation in 2021. So yeah, that's all about.
Okay sir, so do please tell us about your interview at the TCS and how it all went. What was the timing that was dependent on the time you completed the exam and then you got the notification for your interview and the call letter as well.
Yeah, so we'll go through the whole process and let's get started. So
Sure.
Firstly, I gave the interview of TCS twice. It was firstly I gave the Code Vita. So this year it was not conducted, but last year it was conducted. So firstly I qualified to Code Vita, and then I got the interview mail, and the second I got the interview mail from NQT exam that was given by many of my juniors this year. So we'll be going through the whole process that I did for joining TCS. So firstly, for the interview was conducted on Cisco WebEx. So there you will be provided two links. So the first link will be for the lobby and another link will be for the interview panel. So when there will be interview date, you have to sit in the lobby for around an hour. Then from the lobby, your name will be called for the interview. Then you have to join the interview through that second link. There you will find three people. The first will be taking your technical and other two will be HR and for the managerial round. So it started like they will ask you to open your video and all such stuff, and they will start with your introduction and ask you about yourself. Then as they have your resume in your hand, which you have uploaded during the application form, so they will review your resume also, and they will ask you the questions accordingly. So the firstly will be the technical round. So in the technical round, the few questions that I were asked were based on the programming languages that I have mentioned, and basically the concept of OOPS concepts and the database management concepts and the projects that I have made and I have shown in my resume. So now comes specific to the questions that I were asked in the interview. Where the first question they asked me was the joins of the DBMS. So they asked me all the joins and asked me to give the example of each of the joins. Another question they asked me was based on the OOPS concept, and there were series of questions I were asked on the OOPS concept. And another thing they asked me types of database management systems. So I just answered each of these questions fluently. After that, they came to my project and I explained my project to them. And few cross questions were done on that. So that's how it lasted for around 25 minutes. Then another two people who were from HR and manager round. So they asked me
So your voice is cracking.
Some questions related to me, like about.
Sir?
Is it proper now?
Yes sir, it's proper
is it
now.
proper now?
Yes sir.
Yeah. So for the managerial round, me questions related to myself, my background, my family. They asked me what my father does and all such questions. They asked me some situational questions as well, where they have put me in some situation and want some solution from me. And a few of them, as I remember, they asked me one question like, you have 3 tasks, so how would you prioritize each of them? Like, what will be your strategy to prioritize those tasks? So you need to answer this question in a very ideal manner. Like, what will be your thought process behind prioritizing those tasks? And the another question they asked me, like, why do you want to join TCS? And then you should tell them, like, what you feel like, what is good, they're good in TCS, what inspires you to join TCS. There you can give the references of your seniors or your person that you have made who are currently in TCS. You can give some background of TCS, like what made you become a fan of TCS. So that's how you can answer all these questions. Just remember that you have to give some ideal answers that really sounds good. It's not about your opinion, but it's about real opinion that it should ideally be. Now let's come to another interview that I got through NQT. So both the interviews are cracked. So you can, from this you can understand that it's quite easier to get into the TCS. It's not like a big deal to like, it's not like a very tough interview process. You can easily crack it. Now, in another interview round, I wasn't asked much question from HR, but I had a good technical. I was asked good technical questions. There, firstly, they started with, do you know HTML? So I frankly refused them. Because I don't want me to fall in trouble of those tags wells. Just nobody remembers the tags wells, and that person who was sitting in front of me was like a front-end developer there, so he could have asked me lots of questions on that. So I refused him. So later, my interview moved towards Java and C++. So he asked me, "What are you proficient in?" So I said that I'm proficient in Java. So he asked me a series of questions related to Java, object-oriented programming. Then he asked me about what is static and final keywords. He asked me the polymorphism concepts, static and dynamic polymorphism. He asked me about the inheritance in the Java, and many more questions he asked me on Java. After that, he came to a code. He asked me to write a code. So it was a simple code, but I wrote it in C++. So he said that you said you are proficient in Java, then why are you writing code in C++? So I mentioned in there that as I have done most of my projects in Java, but for competitive coding I use C++. So that's why he just got convinced with me. And just make sure while giving an interview, just don't argue with the interviewer, because sometimes a situation comes where interviewer will be trying to challenge you and your solution. He will say that no, it's wrong, and he will just try to put you down somehow. So you need to be calm at that position. You cannot become aggressive or ghost in front of him that yeah, this is right or wrong. Just you have to be patient there. Also, there was a project discussion which was done, so it was as usual. So that was the interview process. This was the interview questions. These were all the interview questions I was asked. Now comes to the extreme cases. I will give you some of the extreme cases that may be asked to you in the interview, because my interviews were quite smoother. They asked me everything I know. So it was quite easier. But sometimes what happens, they will ask questions related that you don't know or anything like that. So how to deal with that situation? I would say that,
so your voice is cracking now.
And just don't say that.
Okay. Please try to say something. No, sir, it's still cracking now.
Yeah?
It is still cracking.
All right.
Let's just wait a few seconds, then maybe the connection would be strengthened.
Sure.
Let's go again from the. Sir, there's one more thing actually. I wanted to say that could you please describe a few questions in detail, like what the HR asked and what the MR asked you, like what the questions and the particular questions that were asked in your technical interview. So please go a few of them at least.
Yeah, sure. I'll come to that.
Okay.
So I was saying, yeah. Actually, I forgot. Let's continue. Let's come to the managerial questions that were asked to me. we will cut all this thing where my voice is breaking.
Sure, sir. No problem. I will be editing that.
Yeah, because
no problem, sir. No problem. I was prepared for that. Sir, you can just continue from the point that you said you were going from the extreme situation in which you may or may not know the answer about. You can continue for that, and then after a bit, you can just continue for the manager questions and the questions that you may remember in detail.
All right. So yeah, I was saying that how you will tackle the situation where you don't know the answer to the question. So the first thing I would say that just never ever try to make him fool, because he's an interviewer. He has been interviewing for so long and has interviewed many candidates. So just be clear whether you know the answer or not. If you don't know the answer, just say politely that I have no idea about it. But just don't try to answer it in a wrong manner, because he will catch you. So actually, what happens that when you are sitting there, he is having your resume. So he will ask you everything you have mentioned in your resume. So let's come to the resume point also. I would say that before pasting your resume to your application, make sure to put only those skills and certificates or projects that you know very well, where you are proficient in that. If you will be mentioning something that you don't know just to make your resume look cool, you will definitely fall in trouble, because he'll definitely go through your resume and ask you the cross questions about it. So just make sure to put everything in the resume where you are confident. Okay?
Yes.
Now, okay. So let's start with the managerial round, where you will be asked the questions related to. You will be provided some situations, and they will try to check your psychology behind it. So the first question I was asked was, they just asked me that you are provided 3 tasks, and how would you prioritize each of them? So with this question, they just want to check that what's your strategy and how you make preferences among various tasks. So you need to give some idea where you will be based on some criteria. You will prioritize your task. So I answered that question. I said that I'll understand the nature of the task first. Like there are certain parameters I will measure the particular task. Firstly, I'll think about the timeline, and secondly, I will think about its importance, and thirdly, the impact if it gets delayed. Based on these 3 parameters, I'll prioritize my task. So that's how I explained this answer beautifully to the interviewer. After that, another question I was asked was a situation-based question, where the interviewer gave me a situation. He said that we are sending you to the on-site, where he gave the example of Germany. He said that we are sending you to Germany, and you are going there with your wife, and you are spending time there, and after some time, after a few months, you want to bring your parents to Germany, but your wife doesn't want you to bring your parents to Germany. So how would you tackle this situation? So I said that first I'll try to convince my wife, and I'll say that that my parents are an important part of my life, and they have now become very old, and it's not easy for them to live alone in India. And then the interviewer said that still, if she doesn't allow, then what would you do? I said that I will bring to Germany, and I will gather their accommodation somewhere else. Like I'll buy or rent a house nearby my house, and there I will call them, and I'll provide the accommodation there only. And then they said that she even doesn't want this. So what would you do? Now I just ended that I'll just try to convince my wife in any possible way, because I just want to bring them. I'll not let the situation be like If wife is not allowing, then nothing can be done. I'll convince her in the best possible way. So there, that question was ended. After that, another question I was asked was, you are having a project, you are allocated to a project that you don't like. So what would you do? I firstly said that I will ask my manager and RMG to change the project, and I'll try if possible that they can change my project. So the interviewer said that no, that cannot be possible. Now you are allocated, so you got to work. So what would you do? So I simply said that yes, because I have been allocated to a project, so I'll work on that project. I'll put my 100% efforts, and whatever the technology is being used in that project, I'll work on it, I'll learn it, and I'll give my full efforts in the project. And in the meantime, I'll be working. I'll be trying to switch the project if possible. Whenever the situation comes where I will be given the chance to change the project, I'll change it. Until then, I'll be working efficiently on that project only. So she said that okay, fine. After that, few questions about myself. They asked me like about your father, where do you live, and some of the simple questions. That round is just a discussion round where you will be checked psychologically, and they just want to check your strategies and your thinking ability. So my tip for that is just give some ideal answers and say something that ideally should be there. And you shouldn't feel like it's not about your personal opinion, it's about the right opinion. So give the right opinion for such questions, and don't just argue with the interviewer. Just be calm and composed. If he's trying to make you burst, don't do it. So if you'll answer every question with patience, you will definitely crack the interview. And the TCS interviews are not really very tough. So if you have enough knowledge, then you can go and crack it. So that's all that happened in the managerial round. Now comes to the technical questions, and some tips from me that some topics and tips that you should follow to make your interview successful. Firstly, I have prepared a list of some of the topics that are largely asked in TCS. So firstly, it comes as OOPS concept. OOPS is object-oriented programming concepts. They are highly asked. They just really, I think I would say out of 10, they ask OOPS concept to the 9 people. So these are really very, very important. OOPS concept includes the 4 pillars and some of the more theoretical questions that regarding OOPS concept. You can find it easily on Google. Just type 100 interview questions on OOPS concept. You will find some series of links. Go through them and remember the concept they are trying to explain. And one more thing, it will be best if you could provide some practical applications of those concepts, like real life applications. So that will be more impressive. And in the OOPS concept, if you read, you will find that there are various concepts with application. Because in OOPS, there is nothing like every concept is just a concept. It has an application and a reason behind it. So just know the reason and understand the application. So that will make a better impact on the interviewer. After that comes the DBMS, really the most important thing. If you are from CS branch, then it becomes really very important. If you are non-CS student, then you may be asked questions on it, you may not be asked. If you have mentioned in your resume, they may ask you. But from the CS background student, they are definitely going to ask you questions on DBMS. DBMS is database management systems. Go through all the theory concepts, the same thing, search the interview questions, go through all the questions, read them, remember them, mug up them. And few of the things that few of the topics that are more asked in DBMS are joins and normalization. So just mug up this very well, as I was also asked to join in both the interviews. They asked me joins. So yeah, this is really very important. You need to understand the queries and SQL statements that are used in DBMS. So just go through them, practice them, because they may ask you to write queries in SQL. So just remember them. And third thing comes is the programming language that you are proficient in. So I would say that make your proficiency in at least one language, that if you are asked anything in that language, you should be able to answer it. So in my interview, I went with Java, though I know C++ and Java equally, but because I've created more number of projects in Java, so I told my interview that I'm proficient in Java. So just don't say that I know everything. Like I know Python, Java, C, C++, Node and everything. Just be clear about what you are talking, and just get specific to one language, because if you are asked any cross questions, you will be able to answer them well if you are proficient in one language. Now the comes is your projects. Mention only those projects in your resume where you are very confident and you would be able to answer everything. Generally, in the projects, they don't cross question until until it is like interesting or something that excites the interviewer. If the interviewer gets excited about the project, they may ask you lots of questions on that. So put those projects where you can handle every cross question. And the certificates that you have done, mention those certificates in your resume. But keep in mind that if you are mentioning those certificates, you have enough knowledge about them. Because if interviewer says that you are putting this certificate and he asks you some questions on that, and if you are not able to answer it, then this will give a negative impact. So just put all those things and only those things where you are confident enough. And apart from that, just make sure that all the programming concepts, whatever language you are choosing, just make sure to understand its core concepts of every language. Say if it's C++, then you should have good understanding of implementation of OOPS concept in the C++, some of the language specific syntax, and some of the special, or I should say, there we are using a certain language, so it has some specific set of rules and features. So get well acquainted to those features. So this is what I have given you, a very extreme case where you will be having a very deep interview. The interviewer is going in every single detail, so you will be able to answer. Generally what happens, they just don't go in such detail. And interview is pretty easy, but sometimes with few of my colleagues, what happened, the interviewer went in interviewer went in really very great details. So you should be prepared for that. And that's all. For the technical, if you do mainly three things: OOPS, DBMS, and the core programming concept. If you are good in all these three things, you will definitely crack the interview. However, whatever be the situation, to any extent the interview goes, you will be able to crack it if you are good in these three things. Apart from that, they may ask you a few questions on operating system and computer networks also, but they are less likely to be asked. So you can have an overview of some questions with it, but just mainly focus on DBMS, OOPS, and a particular programming language. And for the managerial round, just be calm, composed, and be concise to your answer, and never change your answer. But stick to your answer, I would say. I remember one of the incident. One of my colleague, he was asked a question about .NET and Java. Like he was asked the same question, that you are given a project in .NET and you don't like the .NET, so what would you do? So he said that I will try to find a project in Java and I will do the project only in Java. Then the interviewer got angry. He said that what if there is no available project in Java? So he changed his answer, and then somehow he couldn't make it to that interview because he was switching his answers. So just don't switch the answer, stick to the answer. So yeah, that's all about the interview and the process that I could explain. Anything else from your side you want to know?
Sir, thank you very much for sharing your experience. And you said that you gave two interviews, so I think you have a good amount of understanding on what the TCS people interviewers ask and they are expecting from the candidates. And apart from this, I think, sir, you have explained everything. I would also like to ask, sir, but in how many days did you get the call letter after the interview was conducted?
Yeah, so let's discuss about the procedure, what happened. So firstly, Code Vita was conducted. So the Code Vita is generally conducted in August and July months. After that, you get interview mail around in September, this month only. You get a mail for the interview. And after this interview, the result will be declared in December or so, November or December. And for NQT, this year NQT recently got conducted, and after that they are supposed to get the interview in November, around October or November. I don't remember exactly. But after the interview, they will get their offer letter in January around. So these are not a strict dates. It may vary, but as far as I remember, this was the particular schedule when I was the process of TCS interview. So apart from these exams, there is one more exam that is conducted, which is a DCA, Digital Capability Assessment. I think you have heard about it. So there are two profiles in TCS. One is Ninja and another is Digital. So from Code Vita, you will be given both Ninja and Digital profile based on your performance. And in NQT also, you will be given the two profiles. But for NQT, if you get selected for the Digital, you have to give another test, then you will be having an interview. So what happened with me was, in Code Vita, I could make it to Ninja offer. And that's why I thought to give the NQT. But there also I could make it to Ninja only. So the interview got passed, but I got the Ninja offer. Then later there is one more exam which is conducted, which is called TCS, that is Digital Capability Assessment, where all the Ninja candidates are offered the digital offer based on their performance. It's a coding competition where I was given two coding questions, medium and the harder one. So if you complete those two questions in 2 hours, then you get eligible for the digital offer. So in that DCA, I qualified that DCA and I could get the digital offer from that. So I would say that in the third time I got the digital offer. So on my time, it was conducted in April. DCA, Digital Capability Assessment, was conducted in March or April month. So I qualified that, and my offer was converted to Digital from Ninja. And later on, I heard that few of them later they started conducting interviews also. On my time, what happened? They just took the exam, and those who have qualified this exam, the top scorers, got the digital offer. But later they took the interview for a few candidates. My time they didn't took the interview, they just updated my offer to digital. And the others they interviewed, and based on those results they converted it to digital. After that, I got my joining letter in June, in the month of June. And there was a long process for the joining. So in the joining, you will be asked to upload lots of documents. There will be a big bundle of documents you will be asked to upload. Then that month, you need to gather each of those documents. After successfully completing all the joining formalities, you will be given an appointment letter, and yeah, it's all set. You have joined it. So I joined TCS on 1st of July.
Okay.
So this was the whole procedure that I have gone through. Anything else you want to ask?
No, sir. Thank you very much for sharing your experience.
I hope it wouldn't be boring.
No, sir. It is not boring. You were able to share, and there were a number of questions, and you were able to explain the whole process very well. Thank you very much, sir.